Well, so far we've just talked about what users can see and do in the front end. Let's talk about what a user can see or do in the back end. We know that Joomla has two back-end logins that beside the super user. This is the manager and the administrator. Here in our global configuration, if I click on the manager, I can see what the manager is able to do. He's allowed to log in, he's allowed to log into the administrator area, he's allowed to have offline access. He's not the super user and therefore does not inherit super user abilities or the ability to access administration interface. He can create, delete, edit any articles. And so as a manager then, they have access to the backend, but can only create content. An administrator has all the access to the site except for what the super user has access to, which is global configuration and the ability to install new extensions. So essentially the administrator can manage every aspect of the site once it's set up. Of course, registered users have no access. Authors have limited access on the front end, but cannot log in to the back end. So we have a manager and an administrator on the back end that can do that. So here in the global configuration, you can set up the ACL globally. Now you'll notice as I clicked on Training Editor, everything is not allowed. Now the reason that's not allowed because here at the global level, the Training Editor doesn't have the ability to create, edit, or delete articles. So this is a good illustration of how inheritance works in Joomla's ACL. Here at the global level, the Training Editor has no editing abilities. But once I look at the actual category itself, I'm able to override all of those settings here at the category level. By way of illustration, if I do go into the article manager, find an article for just the training category, I can decide, say, washing hands, for instance, to say that, you know what, although the training editor has permissions because they're inherited from the category, I can actually deny this person the ability to edit this particular article, even though they have the inherited permissions to edit all the articles in this category. So Joomla's ACL is unbelievably flexible and very, very granular. What about here in the components area? Well, it works the same way. If I want to give an administrator access to all of the components except admin tools, for instance, I can click on admin tools, options, and permissions, and I can actually turn off permission for even the administrator to access. Click Save and Close, and now my administrator has no access to admin tools. Let's go quickly and log in as the administrator, and I set up an administrator account as by way of a demo, and you can do the same thing. And if I click on components now, the component called admin tools has disappeared. So once again, controlling what users can see and do in the backend is managed by access control. You can manage these globally from global configuration, but when it comes down to individual components and modules and content, you want to do that here in the backend in the options for each. Which means this can be a pretty tedious task if you have a ton of users who have access to your backend and need individual access control. I can't stress this enough. Planning and testing is so important here. Let me mention one module that takes a lot of the stress out of this for you. Now, unfortunately, it's a paid download, so I can't show it to you in this course, but ACL Manager is unbelievably helpful when it comes to this. If you're using the basic ACL or even the slight examples we used with our staff training, you probably don't need something like this. But if you're using access control to a pretty high level on your website, I strongly encourage you to check out ACL Manager. It's not very expensive, but it will absolutely help you out with managing complex access controls to your Joomla site. One last website I want to mention is the docs over at Joomla.org, and I haven't talked a lot about these, but they are getting better and better every day. This is a really good access control list tutorial from the Joomla documentation team, and down here at the bottom they have just a ton of individual illustrations that will really help you get this right. They go much further than we did here in these videos as far as getting pretty complex with a set of controls. So I'd encourage you to read that as well.